Till that the Nazis massacred an entire village in France, Oradour-sur-Glane, killing 642 people, including 247 children. Unlike other Nazi village massacre sites, which were razed or rebuilt and marked by monuments or fields of roses, the charred remains of the village have been left untouched. I visited there last year. Eerie place, left exactly as it was after the massacre. Visiting the graves after walking through the village was so sad. Only a handful of people made it out and many people in the area lost family members. Women and children were locked in the church and burnt alive while men were taken in a few locations where they were shot before the buildings were set on fire. My grandma grew up not 5 kilometers away from that village. It's a very rural area. They saw the smoke in the distance but didn't learn what had happened until the next day. We have some villages in Greece whose residents had the same fate in WW2 by the Nazis. When I visited I felt the grief. I visited this town a few years ago. It's an extremely poignant place to visit and is an important reminder into the atrocities. Definitely worth a visit if you ever get the chance. This event is also chronicled in episode 1 of The World at War, the old BBC series. My grandmother constantly talked about Oradour. She was British and my grandfather was American. They were both World War II veterans. I left in 2006 to be an exchange student in France, which is when she first told me about it. I think it stands out in her mind as the symbol of all she hated most about the Nazis. Obviously the Holocaust too, but she was much closer in proximity to Oradour and it happened long before many people knew about the killing camps. I visited there in 2016. Very eerie, but interesting in a morbid way. It's a full village, you can walk through streets and alleys. There are burned out cars and shops left the way they were back then. Everything is overgrown, looks like a scene from a post-apocalyptic movie. There's a church you can explore, which is the place where the Nazis rounded up the town people, locked them in, and burned the church down. Terrible tragedy. They did something similar in the razing of Condé Nast and they even left a sign to show off. Hearing stories of the survivors of such atrocities is chilling the least but helps to understand where the hate leads to. There is interview from an old lady who survived the Distamol massacre, one of the few translated in English for BBC. She was describing the chaos, trying locate her family members, after someone knocked on her door and told her her father has been shot. The story is cut short when she starts crying as she describes going around the corner, and she bumps onto 2 little girls who were earlier playing in her house, gutted, and lying on the floor in a river of blood, hugged, which means they died conscious. Unfortunately, I do not believe we have collectively as humanity learned anything, and fascism/Nazism still remains the most viral cultural influence of Europe to humanity. So sad, the atrocities of war and the evil that men do. Wow, I'd never heard of this awful story. Do you ever pause and find it shocking that this was less than 100 years ago? About 3 weeks ago, I saw a town within 4 hours bicycle ride up the Gerbeau farm of resistance leader Camille Gerbeau, where some 500 men, women, and children had been murdered by the Germans. I saw one baby who had been crucified. Let that sink in. They crucified a baby. Ever heard of the Unconquered Man statue? It is dedicated to the only adult who survived in his village when the Nazis razed it the ground. That man was Joseph Kaminsky of Khatin, Belarus. In the statue he is holding his dead son. Khatin, one of 186 villages that were never rebuilt after World War II, according to Belarus. Yeah, no, the more I learn about Nazis the more I don't like them. Fuck a Nazi in the ass with a pinecone and bees. They locked the women and children in the church and burned it down with them inside. Waffen-SS were the worst scum on the planet. After 2 assassins managed to kill a high-ranking Nazi in Czechoslovakia, they reprised by having the Gestapo cordon of the village of Lidice rounded up all 173 male inhabitants and executed them in the village square. The 300 women and children were then sent to the Ravensbrück concentration camp for extermination. Then the houses were set on fire and bulldozed so nothing remained. The operation was so thorough that they eventually hunted down the people who happens to be absent from the village and killed them too. All this just to scare people into giving up to assassins. I am horrified at the things humans can convince themselves to do, and even more so at the minds of the people who do them. Tiny hands, au revoir, Silent Planet, https://youtube. b/y9qbrdx_gjs. There's a song about this event as well, metalcore though, so not everyone's cup of tea. But really interesting melodically and lyrically emo. Bloody wonkers. Then you'll probably also should learn of Khityn, Belarusian village of the same fate, https://en. Wikipedia, org/wiki/Khityn_massacre, removed. Went there as a child. The walls by the sidewalk are riddled with bullets from execution. The church they burned people inside has the charred frame of a pram and a confession box riddled with bullets from when they found two kids hiding in it holding hands. Cars are left parked on the streets, sewing machines on the tables in the houses mid-work. As far as I know, there were only 14 survivors when the workers came home on the train the next day. The whole thing was also by mistake. A sniper from Oradour-sur-Glane * had killed one of the SS officers in their regiment, and they retaliated at the wrong city. I had a guy tell me not all Nazis were bad people today. Then he was upset I called him a Nazi. The German commander responsible was a lunatic named Diekmann. When the local SS commander heard what he'd done, he freaked out and demoted him to a combat unit where he was killed during the Normandy invasion. That's how much of crazy fuck this guy was. Even an SS colonel was like, what the fuck, dude? Only good Nazi is a dead Nazi. It is crazy how they literally took some villages off the map. Fucking racist psychos. This is the way to memorialize the atrocities of those on the wrong side of history, not by immortalizing their leaders, but by eternalizing the evil that they perpetuated so that we never forget the consequences of their ideologies. I'm starting to think that these Nazis were a bunch of jerks. That's why I have no respect for Nazis and Nazi wannabe white trash. They too will be in the gas chambers and crosshairs of these real fucking monsters if they are alive today. These duckers have nothing to be proud of and should not be praised. Even SS Standartenführer Stadler felt Diekmann had far exceeded his orders and began an investigation. https://en. Wikipedia, org/wiki/Oradour-sur-Glane_massacre. Imagine how much of a fucking lunatic you have to be to get officially investigated by the Waffen SS for human rights abuses. Removed. Fuck the Nazis. Anyone who supports them should absolutely be considered an enemy of the state, and any illegal acts done in the name of Nazism or racial supremacy should absolutely be legally considered as treason or war criminals in Canada. I'm embarrassed to say that I didn't know the Nazis did shit like that on the Western Front. I thought they only did that in the East, especially Belarus and Ukraine. Hey everybody. I'm pissed off with how liberals and blacks in America are destroying our freedoms. Let's all put swastika armbands on and give Nazi salutes to show how much we disagree with modern America. Down this road they came. The chilling first words to World at War, BBC, reference this atrocity. An amazing documentary about WW2, filmed in the 70s when a lot of the memories were fresh. I definitely recommend giving it a watch. Yeah, good thing the Nazis met their match, stupid fucking animals. Is this the village mentioned in the Alice Network? Last night, I finished the book The Alice Network. It's a historical fiction and it talks about this event. The World at War documentary series starts and ends at Oradour-sur-Glane. And there's a number of theories explaining why the Das Reich unit exterminated this place, including intimidation to prevent locals from helping the Allied troops in Normandy. This same SS unit did several other massacres, like in Toul, where they told the prefect that they killed far more in Russia and that hanging 99 civilians was nothing to them.